are both making $46 million this year. They are the two players. And look, the Harden trade, obviously, we can get into why it's been. I don't even care what happens against the Knicks in this round. Obviously, if you're a Cavs fan, you want them to win. The James Harden trade is a smashing success. Like it is. We can just say that. Like, they're in the Eastern Conference Final. I don't think they... Imagine if Darius Garland played in the... And I don't mean that disrespectfully to Garland. The Pistons would have eaten Darius Garland alive in this series. James Harden's a big SOB. He really made it happen at points in this series for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I'm not trying to minimize what everybody else did. But these are the two guys that the Cavaliers hitched their wagons to. In Mobley and in Donovan Mitchell. And Evan Mobley, after all the criticism, some of it coming from me, all well-deserved. First couple games of the series, Pistons up 2-0 going back to Cleveland. Mobley getting outplayed. Mobley not looking aggressive. And we're all sitting there knowing what Evan Mobley's capable of and wondering why he's not doing it. Evan Mobley came to play last night. And by and large, was very good in the final 5 games of this series. And there's Donovan Mitchell, who looked firmly in control. He was oozing confidence. Kind of reminded me a little bit of me or of you in the instance that I'm about to lay out. When, like, you go to the casino, and let's say you're on a bad streak. And look, Donovan Mitchell has been on a bad playoff streak for his entire career. Never been to a conference final before this year. And things start going against you, and you just get that sinking feeling like, man, I don't know how well this is going to go here. But you start to go on a run, and you get hot, and the confidence starts to build, and you start winning hands, and you're pressing at the right time, and your double downs are all coming out well. Donovan Mitchell got hot last night, and you could feel it. Like a gambler at the table who knows he or she is going to win. You got the sense that Donovan Mitchell didn't think the Cavs were going to win this game last night, but they knew they were going to win. The look on his face when he hit that 3 to end the first quarter, like he's looked like nodding his head, shaking his head as if to say, we are not losing tonight. And he was right. He was magnificent. Magnificent. No turnovers. He's had better statistical games, certainly. Had a 70-point game in his time in Cleveland. Last night is his best game as a Cleveland Cavalier. Given the stakes, given the stage, given what it means for both his team and for him individually in his career. And now that we stand on the precipice of an Eastern Conference final with my New York Knicks against the Cleveland Cavaliers, I would like to invite all of you to step into the You Better You Bet time machine with me, yours truly, your driver of the time machine, your pilot, I guess, Nick Kostos. We're only going to go back in time 4 years ago, summer 2022, when the Knicks and the Utah Jazz embroiled in what felt like a never-ending trade negotiation as the Knicks desperately wanted to bring Donovan Mitchell to Gotham. For whatever the reason, maybe it's the Knicks don't want to put Quentin Grimes in the trade, draft pick, for whatever it is. Doesn't work out, obviously. The Knicks that summer signed Jalen Brunson. And at the very end of the summer, as we start to get into fall, the Utah Jazz trade Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And all of that, and I know that they met in a playoff series, the Knicks and the Cavs, and the Knicks took care of Cleveland, but it feels like that road, the choose your own adventure, that road that led Mitchell to Cleveland and Brunson to New York, the fork in the road in 2022, has led us to this moment and this series in the Eastern Conference Final with the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So much credit goes to Cleveland for what they were able to do. Down 2-0 in the series, rattling off 3 in a row, including that epic Game 5 comeback in Detroit, which also the Pistons choked. We'll get to them in a second. Losing Game 6 in embarrassing fashion, and then winning Game 7 on the road in a rout. Full marks, to the Cleveland Cavaliers for what they did in this series against the Pistons. But now, a different class of opponent awaits in my New York Knicks. You can say that I am a homer because I'm a lifelong diehard New York Knicks fan. Longtime listeners and viewers of the show will tell you not only am I not a homer, but I think that I am harder on my teams than 99% of fans are on theirs. What I always want to do is tell the truth. Even if I'm wrong, like just because I say something doesn't mean it's going to happen. But I'm never going to BS you. I'm never going to come on the air and say something I don't believe just for a reaction. The New York Knicks should absolutely win this series. I look at these two teams, the Knicks and the Cavs, as kind of like the Spider-Man meme, where they're pointing at each other. I think these teams are pretty similar. Brunson and Mitchell are comparable stars, even if I think Brunson's the better player. Both have tremendous starting lineups and supporting casts. I just think the Knicks are better at all of it. I think the Knicks are better at all of it. I would be very, very surprised if the Knicks lost this series. Game 1 tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden. It is my expectation that the Knicks will win tomorrow night and that the Knicks will ultimately take care of business and advance to their first NBA Finals since 1999. Remember, the Knicks a little further along in the process than Cleveland, having gotten to the Eastern Conference Final last year and tasted that heartbreak. Whereas, again, think about what I said. Think about what catharsis means for these two teams. Catharsis for Cleveland, Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Catharsis will not happen for the New York Knicks until they win the Eastern Conference. And that alone doesn't guarantee or even close to it that it will happen, but I think the Knicks are the better team. It took the Cavs 7 games to beat a Pistons team that took 7 games to beat the Orlando Magic and would have, not could have, I believe would have lost to Orlando if not for the Franz Wagner injury. And you can say, well, look at the Knicks level of competition. Who have they beaten? Atlanta and Philly. Okay, like going through the Hawks and the Sixers is not like going through the Thunder and the Spurs. Also, they won every game by 100 points. It's what I love in sports sometimes when like really good team plays bad teams. I was like, oh, well, who have they played? Well, it's not like the Knicks are winning these games at 91-88. They're winning 140-80. They're killing these teams. This is what you want good teams to do. Beat the piss out of bad teams. And that's what the Knicks have done. Not that the Cavs are a bad team. They're not. They're really, really good. But I think the Knicks are better. And as for the Detroit Pistons, I tried to tell you all season, and I truly believe this. I don't think I was ever disrespectful once to the Pistons. But Pistons fans on social media get really, really mad. Got really, really mad at me the various times during the season when I would say, and I was proven correct, that not only will the Pistons not win the NBA championship, they're not even going to make the Eastern Conference Final. And if they make the Eastern Conference Final, there ain't no way in hell they're winning unless the other team gets COVID, like the Suns did in Game 7 against the Mavericks a number of years ago. There's just no way. It was never going to happen. You're not winning multiple playoff series with Tobias Harris as your second scorer. Tobias Harris got hot against the Orlando, and credit to him. It happened. You can't take it away from him. How was it last night? Jalen Duren was an absolute disaster following an all-NBA caliber season. A disaster in the postseason for the Detroit Pistons. Look, Asar Thompson's an unbelievable defender, but you can't count on him to be a second scorer on a championship-level team. Cade Cunningham I want everyone to hear me now. Cade Cunningham is a megastar. A megastar. The Pistons absolutely can win an Eastern Conference in the next few years. I don't know if they can win the championship just because the Thunder and the Spurs are both so imposing and will be for years. But it should surprise no one if the Pistons ultimately break through. They're early in their process, right? Like last year they made the playoffs, had a really tough first-round loss against the Knicks. This year made the second round and made it to Game 7 of the second round of the playoffs. This is all really normal stuff for an NBA team to have to go through. And there's a great juxtaposition between them and the Spurs and the Thunder, which we'll get to on the other side. But this is all normal for the Pistons. And that's why it's not a surprise that it ended the way it did for Detroit. And that the upside for this team, the ceiling, was never as high as it looked during a admittedly unbelievable regular season for Detroit that saw them win 60 games and be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. If you're a Pistons fan, you need a couple things to happen. One, because I'm assuming that they're going to bring back Jalen Duren. Because if they don't, he's getting a huge deal somewhere else. He's 22 years old. I'm guessing that Jalen Duren comes back. And you need more from him when it matters most. The other one is obvious. You just need better players around Cade Cunningham. You need more. They didn't have enough. And we can go back and retroactively criticize the Pistons for what they did, not doing more at the deadline. I think they probably accurately saw this team and said, you know what, we're probably not ready at the moment. I think they're probably right about that, and proven right about that. So I'm not going to criticize them for that. But now, with things having played out the way they did, it's all over but the crying. Season's over. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. Now's the time for the Detroit Pistons to really improve, surround Cade Cunningham with more talent, and make a deeper and more serious run at an Eastern Conference championship next season. And oh, by the way, OG Anunoby expected to play tomorrow night for the Knicks in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Oh, man. I got a pit in my stomach just thinking about it, even as confident as I am that the Knicks will win and go to the NBA Finals. We are just getting started here on a Monday. You better you bet on Westwood One Sports. We will get to Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's there. Like literally, he's there right now at OTAs. We will talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, the NFL schedule. Week 1 best bets are coming your way. Can't wait to get into that. But on the other side, tonight, Game 1 of the Western Conference Final between Oklahoma City and San Antonio. But in reality, this is really Series 1 between Oklahoma City and San Antonio. We'll break it down, and I'll tell you how I'm betting game number 1 next on this Monday.
list with greats, guys that have done amazing things with the game, the things you dream about. It's always an honor, always just grateful to be in those conversations.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as expected, most valuable player for the second consecutive season. As an aside, a lot of people really mad at ESPN Shams Charania for breaking this news yesterday when Amazon Prime was supposed to announce it last night during the game. At halftime, Taylor Rook's taking a shot at him. Dirk Nowitzki takes a shot at him. Blake Griffin calls him a nerd and says it's Sunday, go to brunch. I will say, brunch is awesome. And I would never give up being a dad for anything. I do kind of miss going to brunch. Can't really do that with a 2-year-old. Again, wouldn't give it up, but just saying, I kind of miss brunch. And Shams should be going to brunch. I have a really just contrarian thought on the Shams situation. I saw someone else put this out there. I actually saw it on Threads. It came up on my Instagram, so I apologize for not crediting the person. I actually thought this also. He tweeted it at 7:30 in the morning yesterday. Is it possible that, like, he scheduled the tweet incorrectly? And it was supposed to go out at 7:30 at night when, like, it was officially announced on Amazon. I'm not trying to defend him, just saying, like, there's too much hullabaloo about this. Like, this was not like they're announcing the results of the presidential election. We all knew SGA was going to be MVP. There was no question about it. It was obvious that SGA was going to win MVP. For me, this was much ado about nothing. And now that it's over, and SGA is a two-time NBA Most Valuable Player, and I believe, unfortunately, as a Knicks fan, soon to be a two-time NBA Finals MVP, we are going to enter a period of time where we're going to start to have, and I think it's probably already happening now, some uncomfortable conversations about SGA and his standing amongst the league's all-time greats. There are, I will just give a smattering of players that have one MVP award. Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, KG, Dirk, Harden, Hakeem, Shaq, one MVP. Allen Iverson, one MVP. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 2. How does that make you feel? You, the sports fan consuming the show right now. When I tell you, and this is not to say that I think SGA deserves it. He deserved it last year. I think he deserves it this year. It's not the question. The question is not, does he deserve it? My question is, how does it make you feel? How does it make you feel knowing SGA has more MVPs than Kobe Bryant? Are you okay with it? Does it make you mad? Is there a part of you that's a little frustrated by that? Do you feel like he's not as good as the players I just rattled off? Do you think he foul baits and flops? Does it get under your skin? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, fast forward a month from now, where the most likely outcome is SGA not just being a two-time NBA MVP, but a two-time Finals MVP as well. We are a month away from that potentially taking place, and that is the most likely outcome. And none of this, what I've said, is to dismiss their opponent in the Western Conference Final tonight, the San Antonio Spurs, who in very impressive fashion took care of business against the Minnesota Timberwolves on Friday night. And I'll just say this about Minnesota, and a lot was made about Anthony Edwards, and it was very strange. Going over with 8 minutes to go and congratulating the Spurs, basically like in the middle of their blowout in Minnesota to knock the Wolves out of the playoffs. And look, Ant kind of marches to the beat of his own drum, and he's his own dude. So I don't want to look too much far into it, because I think you take what he says at face value. When Anthony Edwards says, like, I'm not going back into the game and I wanted to congratulate the better team, I believe him when he says that. Also, it's a little weird and he probably shouldn't do it. But look, I don't think there's anything sinister going on there. I don't think he's like sending a message to his organization by doing that. I think in his head, he's legitimately like, this is the right thing to do. So that's cool that Ant did that. But Anthony Edwards is delusional with one thing, and this will lead to a grander point about the Western Conference. So Ant, after the game, is asked, like, what's happened the last couple times you guys have been eliminated from the playoffs? And think back. Your Western Conference Final 3 seasons ago now, right? Blown out in the final game by the Mavericks. Last year, Western Conference Final, blown out in the elimination game by OKC. Friday night, blown out in the elimination game by the Spurs. Ant acknowledged, it's a good question, but I have no comments. Okay. Shows that he's a little upset, right? But then, Anthony Edwards was asked about, hey, do you feel like you might need another superstar next to you? What do you think the roster needs to get a little better? Listen to what Anthony Edwards had to say post-game on Friday night.
Do you think this team as it is right now can compete with the San Antonio Spurs and Oklahoma City Thunder? Or do you feel like you need another star next to you?
Yeah, I feel like we're good. Yeah.
Okay. You're not. You're not. Part of me, I'm being serious, part of me appreciates and respects his completely irrational confidence in his team. And again, like, I believe him. This is someone who, like, Kevin Durant goes to the Phoenix Suns and his reaction is, well, we have Jaden McDaniels. Like, he loves his team. He comes across as, whether you like him or not, exceptionally authentic and true to himself. Also, he's wrong. He's wrong. And, like, the proof's in the pudding. They played OKC last year. They got vaporized. Play San Antonio this year and get vaporized. And look, he's not fully healthy, and Dante DiVincenzo doesn't play. But this is like, guess what? Life ain't fair. This is what happens in the NBA. And you look at the Western Conference, and Minnesota, and the Lakers, even, when they get Luka back, and well, maybe LeBron comes back, and maybe Reeves comes back, and they run it back next year. You look at the Rockets, the Nuggets, and their window, and the fact that they've made everyone available for trade, not named Nikola Jokic. I want someone to tell me the team in the Western Conference, legitimately, this is not like wish casting the Mavericks to add superstars around Cooper Flag, which could happen. It hasn't and might not. This isn't like, well, the Clippers at 5th overall, thanks to Indiana, are going to draft this Maybe. Tell me the Western Conference team that's breaking up. Like, if these were businesses, there would be like, this would go to the Supreme Court. Some kind of antitrust monopoly lawsuit with OKC and San Antonio. Tonight is game 1 of this year's Western Conference Final with the Thunder and two-time MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. I'm looking at it both as a game 1 of this year and series 1 between these two teams moving forward. You better bet on this Monday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports. Barring injury, and injuries can happen. Of course, they happen all the time. Crazy things happen in sports. But assuming things remain somewhat static, the principles are all healthy. Tell me how these teams aren't meeting in the Western Conference Final again next year. And this isn't me rooting for that to happen. Like, it'll be boring if it's the same two teams playing in the Western Conference Final every year. Like, it'll be fun in one respect and boring in another. It's always fun when you get some new blood, right? I just want someone to legitimately tell me how this isn't the first of many. How it isn't the first of many. At BetMGM, the point spread for tonight's game, Oklahoma City is a 6.5-point favorite. 6.5-point favorite in game 1. Total 221.5. J-Dub, Jalen Williams, expected to play and be back for the Thunder. OKC is minus 250 in the series against San Antonio. I understand anyone that likes San Antonio in this series. I don't agree, but you can make a case for the Spurs. The case would be, look what they did against OKC in the regular season. Now, the Thunder got them the last time they played out of 4, but before that, the Spurs beat them 3 times in 12 days in 3 different cities, including in the NBA Cup semifinal in Vegas. So San Antonio has had success against OKC. And remember, the last time the Spurs beat OKC in the regular season last year, SGA said, like, right now, like, this has been like a playoffs, like with all the times they played in succession in short order, and they were the better team. And SGA acknowledged that. Let's go back to the Pistons for a moment. Detroit is very much following the blueprint for an NBA contender in the postseason, where the old adage has been proven true over and over and over and over again, with a couple small exceptions that are all kind of a confluence, a perfect storm of events unfolding for something to happen. Like the Warriors when the first year they won the championship. And everyone gets hurt for Cleveland except for LeBron in the finals. And more than that happened, the Warriors had also been to the playoffs prior to that, right? The Pistons are following a normal trajectory. First round last year, lose. This year, second round, lose. We'll see what happens moving forward. That's normal. What OKC and San Antonio are doing is abnormal. The Thunder were the 1 seed a couple years ago. They lost once to Dallas. Lost once. And then won the title the next year. This Spurs team hasn't lost yet in the playoffs. And they're in the Western Conference Final. And they're a dog, but not a huge dog, to win the series against Oklahoma City. If the Spurs do win this series, this will be them taking a monster you-know-what all over what all of us have thought and assumed for years in the NBA playoffs. Will show that experience might actually be overrated, at least when you have an 8-foot alien like Victor Wembanyama. I have to imagine that OKC, even with their lack of overall experience compared to other teams that have followed a trajectory leading to a championship, the Thunder won a title. It's not like they have no experience, but I think you understand. This is not the Michael Jordan Bulls, who came agonizingly close on numerous occasions in the Eastern before finally breaking through and beating Magic and the Lakers in 91. This is not that. But the Thunder have more experience than San Antonio. And I have to imagine that it's going to matter. J-Dub's going to be back. It's a huge deal, obviously, for the Thunder to have him back, their second best player. People can poo-poo it, and they can say, oh, well, actually, it doesn't matter. It does. It matters a lot. De'Aaron Fox, Steph Castle, especially Castle in Game 6, and Dylan Harper ran roughshod over the Timberwolves in this last series. I doubt that happens here against OKC. And Wemby's going to get his because he's 8 feet tall, and you can't teach that. I don't think it'll be enough. I'll take the Thunder in 5 to win the Western Conference. And I'll take the Thunder to win and cover tonight. And when it's all said and done, I believe we will get my preseason NBA Finals prediction. Playing for the Larry O'Brien Trophy. My New York Knicks against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Take a quick break here on this Monday, and on the other side, Aaron Rodgers is back in Pittsburgh. Why that's great news for the rest of the AFC North. We're presented by BetMGM.
don't know specifically Aaron is. I can tell you that Aaron and I, Coach and Aaron and Aaron's representative, we've had some good conversations since the season ended and, since Mike got hired. And, it's been positive. But, yeah, I don't know where he is at this moment.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
When the games get bigger, the crowds get louder, and the excitement reaches a new level. Be part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. The voice coming back from break, Steelers general manager Omar Khan, joined us here on You Better You Bet 10 days ago with my friend Chris Mack on a Friday. And at the time, Omar Khan did not know where Aaron Rodgers was. Today, he knows. Because Aaron Rodgers is in Pittsburgh. He's filmed walking into the facility wearing a Steelers shirt. He will sign a one-year deal up to $25 million to play quarterback this year for Mike McCarthy and the Steelers. Can we just I don't even need the pomp and circumstance here. We get in the You Better You Bet time machine, and we'll go back to 2018, which was the last year in Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. The Packers went 6-9-1, despite Rodgers starting every game, and Mike McCarthy got fired with a month to play, and Joe Philbin was the interim coach. So we saw this, and obviously, there's more players on the team. There's more than one coach, obviously. We saw this 8 years ago. It ended 8 years ago, and everybody agreed that the Rodgers-McCarthy relationship had grown stale 8 years ago. And now we're back, and it's just yeah, no big deal. Here's Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, who turns 43 in December. 43. How's this going to go? And I don't even want to, you all know my opinion. I don't think it's going to go well. And I think I have really good reasons why I don't think it's going to go well. And if you're a Bengals fan, and especially a Ravens fan, you have to be delirious with this news, in ecstasy with this news. The tack that I'll take here instead of me just saying negative, let's say it goes well, right? And I like the Steelers' talent on offense. I like the offensive line. I like their receiving core. I like DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman and Jeremy Bernard. I like it. I see no reason why, with a better quarterback, the Steelers couldn't have a really fun offense this year. And I do think Mike McCarthy, by and large, gets a bad rap. I don't know if his offensive system is outdated at this point now, but I'll tell you, he's a good coach. So let's say I'm wrong. I've been wrong a million times. Here's what I'll say to everybody. I'm wrong. And the Steelers are good this year. What's their ceiling? What is the absolute maximum number of games the Steelers win this year with 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy? The absolute maximum. Let's now take this into January. What is the absolute latest round they can reach? If you want to let you paint the rosiest scenario possible, the most black and gold scenario possible while you're listening to Renegade, what is the farthest round that they can possibly reach? Is it the Super Bowl? Can they win the Super Bowl? If the answer is no, and it is, because I'm guessing even if you are the biggest Steelers fan possible and you have one song on your playlist and it's Renegade, that's it. You know in your heart of hearts they're not winning the Super Bowl this year. And if that's true, what's the point? What's the point? To go 10-7 and lose in the opening weekend? Maybe you make it to the divisional round? To go 9-8? To go 11-6 maybe? To go 8-9? And not give yourself a chance to get one of the elite quarterbacks next year in the draft? What's the point of this? Again, even if I'm wrong and they win the AFC North again, even if I'm wrong, what's the upside? What's the ceiling? And is it worth it to do this again? Or would it have been better to take your medicine and take your lumps and see how you do with either Drew Aller or Will Howard? I think it's a pretty obvious answer to that question. But the Steelers are mired and stuck in the cycle of 9-8, the cycle of 10-7. If you're a Bengals fan or a Ravens fan, you have to be tickled pink with that development. Hour 1 done, hour 2 for you coming up on the other side. Let's talk NFL schedule to start the hour and some early bets for week 1.
names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening, as you do every day, to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Brought to you by BetMGM.
The magnificent Sports Monday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our crew, and you here on Westwood One Sports. I loved the first hour of today. Monday shows are always great. Coming off a playoff weekend, NFL schedule, all that jazz. We'll get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's an awesome weekend in Major League Baseball. I found myself really enjoying, here's a sentence I never thought would come out of my mouth. I found myself really enjoying the Aaron Rye experience yesterday during the final round of the PGA Championship. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. And I'll tell you why a little later in the show. Very much look forward to that. Brian Geltzeiler will join us in a little bit, NBA Radio, and my buddy Dave Dameshek from Football America, part of Meadowlark Media, next hour here on the program. But we started the show talking about Cleveland rocking in Game 7 last night on the road in Detroit. Catharsis for Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and the Cavs. Impressive performance by Cleveland to get to the Eastern Conference Final. First one, by the way, for the Cavs since 1992 without LeBron James. That team with Brad Daugherty and Mark Price and Craig Elo would, of course, lose for the 700th time to Michael Jordan and the Bulls en route to another championship for Chicago. The Knicks, people forget. No one cares. I'm going to say it anyway. That year, the Knicks took the Bulls to 7. I cried after they lost. Just so many childhood memories of Michael Jordan stuffing me and all Knicks fans into a locker. So credit to the Cavs for getting the job done. Mitchell was great. Mobley was great. Jarrett Allen was great. Sam Merrill was great. And the Pistons were brutal. And they proved me right. Said all season long, this team does not have the upside to go to the NBA Finals, to win the Eastern Conference, probably not even to make the Eastern Conference Final. And it proved out. Cade Cunningham's a megastar, a future MVP. Not enough around him. Simply put, the Pistons are not talented enough. They're not there yet. Doesn't mean they can't or won't get there, but at this exact moment in time, they are not ready for prime time. And now, an Eastern Conference Final awaits with the Cavs and my Knicks. And it does make you think, right? Back in 2022, the Knicks desperately trying to bring Donovan Mitchell to Gotham, bring him to Madison Square Garden. It doesn't end up working out with the Utah Jazz. The Knicks signed Jalen Brunson. The Cavs trade for Donovan Mitchell. And the rest, as they say, is history. Now, Mitchell v. Brunson. Cavs v. Knicks. Mike Brown against his former team a couple different times. The storylines are juicy. OG Anunoby going to be back. James Harden trying to get to the NBA Finals for the first time in his Hall of Fame career. Since obviously it did go with Oklahoma City, but as one of the star players for the first time in his career, trying to win an NBA championship. The storylines are plentiful, bountiful. And I'm expecting my Knicks to get to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. Told you why I believe Thunder Spurs. Game 1 tonight. This is Series 1 for these two teams. There is no team in the West that you can make a realistic case. You can wish cast, and you can say, if X, if Y, if Z happens, can a team in the West upend the apple cart? I actually don't think the answer to that question is yes. Anytime soon. So yes, tonight's Game 1 with Oklahoma City and San Antonio. This is Series 1 with the Thunder and the Spurs of what will likely be many Western Conference Finals over the course of the next decade. And I really respect San Antonio. And I think, really, if I'm being honest, I think winner of this series likely wins the title. I don't love to say that as a Knicks fan. I would be shocked if the Thunder weren't ultimately the team that represented the West in the NBA Finals. I know that the Spurs had regular season success against OKC. This a different animal. This a different beast. J-Dub gonna be back. Give me Oklahoma City. And I think it's going to be a quick series. I like the Thunder in 5 against the San Antonio Spurs. And give me the Thunder to win and cover tonight in Game 1. And I'll continue to ask the question because I think it's an interesting one. You can tweet me at the Kostos, 310-840-4910. Let us know on YouTube, youtube.com/at the Kostos. When I tell you that SGA has 2 regular season MVP awards, and players like Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, Kevin Durant, David Robinson, Dirk Nowitzki, AI, that they all have 1. And SGA has 2. How does that make you feel? How does it make you feel? And how's it going to make you feel a month from now when the most likely outcome potentially happens? Thunder win the title, and SGA is not just a back-to-back regular season MVP, but a back-to-back finals MVP as well. And we got into Aaron Rodgers to close the hour. He's in Pittsburgh right now signing his deal. He will be the Steelers quarterback this year. And why I think, even in the best-case scenario, I don't think it's worth it for the Steelers to go down this road with Aaron Rodgers. And I think even if I'm proven wrong and they go 12-5, which I don't think will happen, are they ever winning the Super Bowl? Be honest. And if your answer to that question is no, what's the point with the 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers? We'll talk about that and more when Dave Dameshek joins us next hour on the show. So I was off on Friday. Didn't get a chance to, here on the airwaves, react to the NFL schedule release on Thursday night. I will just relay, and I did a video on my Instagram, and you can follow me on Instagram at the Kostos, TheKostos. Because my experience watching the schedule release on Thursday night, I basically sat in my basement with a bleep-eating grin on my face, like the Cheshire Cat, thinking about fantasy football, looking at sides and totals for week 1, thinking about the National Football League. This show is a show by sickos, by diehard sports fans, for sickos, for diehard sports fans. You know that I love all sports. We talk about all of them here on the show. I'll never BS you. There's nothing like the National Football League. And you have something as mundane as the schedule being announced leads to such a fervor and such a visceral reaction from me and many others, and you understand why this league is absolutely king. Now, before I give you some thoughts on week 1, and I've got a lot of them. I've got like 5 or 6 games that I have targeted. Now, we're 4 months out. I'm not betting these games right now, but I have strong thoughts on a number of games already for week 1 in the NFL. Before we get to that, I think there is a pretty obvious takeaway. And I was talking to Bill before the show, to Bill Zimmerman, and I know that Chris Mack talked about this on Friday. Like I said, and it's not an insult to Chris, everyone did it. I'm about to do it now. But it's an obvious takeaway. The NFL clearly, like the kid that comes back from college break or high school break from the summer with a blonde mohawk, clearly looking to make a statement. The NFL has shown up with a blonde mohawk. They have made a huge statement. And the statement that the NFL has made is the primetime games and the holiday games are going to be second to none this year. The NFL's not messing around with the primetime slate where the Amazon Thursday night package is fabulous. The games rule. ESPN has the Super Bowl this year, so you knew Monday Night Football was going to rock. And look, like the NBC Sunday night package is good, but we are used to, right? Let's be honest. The Sunday night package has usually been the best one. Like, NBC has generally gotten the best games. Sunday Night Football has generally been the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme. You can make a case, it's the worst this year. It's still great. I'm not poo-pooing it. But I think the NFL clearly sought to say this year, every primetime slate is going to rule. And the holiday slates are all going to be great as well. Thanksgiving week this year, Thanksgiving Eve, which is, out of all, if you're doing a power ranking of amateur holidays for young people, is Thanksgiving Eve one or is New Year's Eve one? Where, look, I used to go out and get hammered on Thanksgiving Eve and New Year's Eve. And now I don't because I'm old and I'm a dad and I like to think I'm a little wiser. Thanksgiving Eve, a holiday made up for young people to get hammered when they go home. Thanksgiving Eve, Packers at Rams. And it is a brutal close of the season for the Los Angeles Rams. We can get to that at some point as well. Thanksgiving Day, Bears, Lions, Eagles, Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills. Pretty good. And Black Friday, Broncos, Steelers. Christmas Eve, Texans, Eagles. Pretty good. Christmas Day is an embarrassment of riches. Packers, Bears, Bills, Broncos, Rams, Seahawks. The best Thanksgiving slate ever. The best Christmas, and I understand Christmas slates have not been a thing for a long time, but I mean, it's incredible and it's great. And I kind of hate it. You followed the show for any period of time, and I just talked about it to start the hour. There is no one that loves the NFL more than me. You can love it as much as I do, but you can't love it more than me. I got, and this is kind of like comparing sizes, I got the NFL Encyclopedia for Christmas. Thurman Thomas was on the cover. When I was 6, I read the whole thing front to back. I've been a diehard, obsessed NFL fan literally since 1990. 36 years now. Diehard, obsessed. Outside of my family, the people I care about, the NFL's my favorite thing. Has been my entire life. I think we're reaching a point where some things have to be sacred. And look, this is not me saying that I'm speaking for you, like I'm the voice of the voiceless here. I know a lot of people pretty strongly disagree with me on that they love games on Christmas. And look, like I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. I'm pretty blessed at this point. It has not been the case for me my entire life. Not every holiday has been a happy occasion for me in my life. Some of them have been miserable, and you don't really look forward to them. And I know there are a lot of people, and this is not to poke fun. It sucks. I have empathy. Let's say you don't look forward to the holidays for whatever the reason, right? You listening, watching right now. It's probably awesome to know you have 3 football games to watch. I understand that. I get it. And I also understand that the NFL is an entity that exists to make money. The National Football League, for as much as I love it and as much as I consider myself to be, which is insane, and I know that, like a steward of the game, the NFL is capitalism personified. The NFL is exceptionally greedy, as all capitalist entities are. And I don't even mean this as praising or a criticism. It's just the truth, right? That's the world we live in, the country that we live in, right, wrong, or indifferent. I get that the NFL wants to make as much money as possible. At what point can something be sacred? Can I spend time with my family on a holiday? Is that so much to ask on Christmas Day that I can hang out with my 2-year-old daughter? And not, like, I love football. I want to watch football. Can I hang out with my family on Christmas? The answer is no. I can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I love my job, and I would never not do this job. It reaches a point where it's like, can we just leave well enough alone? Like, it's not good enough as is. And I'm kind of a hypocrite here, because I'm never not going to watch. I'm going to watch every game. I'm going to bet on games. I'm going to play fantasy. I'm going to think obsessively about it. I love doing the show. I love football season. When is enough enough? And just wait until we get to the Thanksgiving slate on Sunday that week, when everyone realizes all of a sudden, yeah, like, man, Wednesday was awesome and Thursday kicked ass, and man, Black Friday with the Broncos and the Steelers, that was pretty cool. Wait till Sunday. With the NFL de-emphasizing Sunday in favor of other days of the week. I'm hopelessly addicted to the product. I'm going nowhere. And maybe the bet that the NFL's making, and they could be right, I'm one of them, is that we are all so addicted to this product and we all love it so much that nothing they do is ever going to matter. Maybe they're right. They're right as far as I'm concerned. For as much as I'm complaining, I'm going to be there watching. At what point is it going to be too much? As someone that loves the National Football League, I hope we never reach that point. I really do. I hope it never happens. It kind of feels like we're on that path. I hope we never get there. I didn't want that to come across as too negative because I am very excited. It's just, I like my family. I'd like to spend time with them on the holidays. That's just me. You can disagree. We can all be welcome to our opinions. It is a free country. Coming up next, let's get really excited for the NFL schedule and give you some way too early thoughts on week numero uno. That's coming up next here on this Monday on Westwood One Sports.
hit as he drops back. The ball free. Picked up by Noosu. Running down the side. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown! It's picked off and a touchdown! Seattle has scored on another turnover. And that will seal it seems, right now for the Seahawks in Super Bowl 60.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew. Presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. Westwood One Sports, courtesy of The Highlight. Our friends Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner as the Seattle Seahawks wrecked the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 60. We talked about it on Thursday, that Seahawks-Patriots was the rumored season opener and all the reasons that I liked it. And indeed, that is the NFL season opener. The Seahawks and the Patriots on Wednesday night, September 9th. Seattle, a 4.5-point favorite right now. And I will offer this caveat before I start. I know it's early. I understand. None of this is to say, go bet this now at BetMGM. I'm not saying that. I'm not betting it. But what I am doing is using point spreads as a jumping off point for conversations about teams, which I think everyone can understand and appreciate because it's fun and interesting to talk about. So it's not like, wait, betting game, what's he thinking? For so much. I know. I get it. And I love when you put an opinion out. It's like, oh, how can you have an opinion? It's May. I don't know. So what am I supposed to do? Like, my show starts and you want me to just not talk? Fart into the microphone for 3 hours? Come on. Stop it. You can have opinions. That's what this job is. Oh, how could you have an opinion? It's May. Great. Like, you show up as an accountant to do your job and don't do someone's taxes for them. See how it goes. Anyway, so the week 1 slate is here. Seattle's a 4.5-point favorite, which feels a little light on the surface, but then you realize that the Patriots are going to have A.J. Brown, and the point spread probably feels just about right. And I have a bunch of thoughts on week 1 and some bets that I feel like I will probably make as we get a little closer to that second weekend in the month of September. So let's start with the Melbourne game with the Rams and the 49ers, where the Rams are 2.5-point favorites, and again, it's a neutral site game. Everyone's going to like the Rams, who have just an impossible schedule to close the season. The LA Rams do. I mean, one of those schedules where you look at it and think, how the hell is this going to go for them? Packers, the Seahawks twice, at the Niners, the Cowboys, the Chiefs. It's all to close the season for the LA Rams. You know I like San Francisco in the NFC West this year. And I'm going to like the Niners in that game. I'm not going to step out on enough of a limb to say that I think the Rams will miss the playoffs. I don't want to do that. I don't believe it. But I do think that there's more volatility with this team than a lot of people are expecting. And again, I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs. I think they're going to make it. And I do think they're a legitimate threat to win the Super Bowl. So please understand what I'm saying. But we're another year now into Matthew Stafford's career, and there were legitimate concerns, not illegitimate, not made up, like factual concerns about Matthew Stafford's back heading into last year. Now, he won MVP. And if the regular season game in Seattle goes a little differently, like maybe the Rams are Super Bowl champions. Who knows the sliding doors as a result of that game, of that result, right? But Stafford's a year older, and I think the receiver position is pretty flimsy for this team. Once you get past Puka Nacua, who was in rehab, and I'm not poking fun at that or making light of it, just saying his behavior's been all over the place. That is a fact. It's not a criticism. You want everybody to get well, and I give him credit for getting help, but also, like, it's something that happened that we can't ignore. Devontae Adams is long in the tooth, and outside of those two, great. You can keep putting tight end after tight end after tight end on the field. And maybe the Rams ride that all the way to a Lombardi trophy. I've got concerns. I think the Niners beat them in week 1. I've been consistent on that for a while, and barring some kind of injury or unforeseen event, I won't back off that take when we get to Melbourne coming up in week number 1. Some other thoughts on week 1. You bet on this Monday. Nick Kostos and you on Westwood One Sports. The Cincinnati Bengals have opened a 3.5-point home favorite against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield in week number 1. That is a healthy amount of optimism in Cincinnati's defense. So this is not me saying that the Bengals should not be favored in the game. Excuse me. That the Bengals should not be favored in the game. I think they should be. But if you're going to give me 3.5 points with anyone right now with a legitimate offense against Cincinnati, given the state of the Bengals defense, I feel like it's something that I'm interested in. And I know Mike Evans is now in San Francisco. Tampa's going to roll out Emeka Egbuka and Jalen McMillan and Chris Godwin, and we'll see about the rookie Ted Hurst. And I know the Bucs are on another offensive coordinator here. Cincinnati's defense and I like what they did this offseason. I like Boye Mafe. I like Cook in the secondary. I like the Dexter Lawrence trade for both them and the Giants. Just the expectation that the defense is going to flip this switch, it's facts not rooted in evidence. There's nothing to suggest that this defense is definitely going to be better. So if you made me bet that game right now, I'm taking the points with Tampa. I'll take the Bucs to win the game. And I love Joe Burrow. But I'm going to need to see it before I believe it. I'll be a doubting Thomas here as it concerns the Cincinnati Bengals defense. How about the Texans and the Buffalo Bills, week 1 in Houston? Buffalo, about basically a 1-point road favorite, the smallest of small favorites on the road in Houston. Total in that game is 44.5. Feels a smidge high. I really like both these teams this season. If CJ Stroud cannot urinate down his leg like he did at points last year, especially in the divisional round game in New England, Houston's smash mouth identity on defense should be able to work its way to the offensive side of the ball. With a reshaped offensive line, I love Rutledge, the first-round pick. David Montgomery, a physical element at running back. Nico Collins is still there to go along with Jaden Higgins. They could be the Twin Towers at receiver. Jalen Noel, last year's rookie as well. I like what the Texans have here. Can C.J. Stroud come to play? If the answer is yes, the Texans can go to the Super Bowl this year. I didn't think that last year. This defense should be ferocious and has been Josh Allen's kryptonite. Make me pick the winner, and I love Buffalo this year. I love the Bills. The Bills might be my pick to win the AFC this year when it's all said and done. But in this game, on the road in Houston, game 1 for Joe Brady, with that defense, I'm going to like the Houston Texans to win that game week 1 against Buffalo. I'll give you one more. Another small home dog. The Minnesota Vikings, 1.5-point home dogs against the Green Bay Packers. So Green Bay, Minnesota, which is a badass week 1 matchup. Love it. In Minnesota, Green Bay at BetMGM, about a 1.5-point road favorite. Total in the game, 45.5. Now, we don't know if Micah Parsons is going to be good to go. It feels like the early reporting, things can change, is that he probably won't be ready for week 1, but I don't say that with a ton of confidence. And again, that's not an opinion. That's kind of like the reporting that's been out there, is he may not be ready for a couple weeks into the season. So I'm going to assume for right now that Micah Parsons does not play. I'll just keep saying it. Minnesota last year went 9-8 with J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Brosmer. A winning record with those 3 quarterbacks. I know Jonathan Grenard is now in Philly. I get it. But Brian Flores is the best defensive coordinator in the league. With apologies to Vic Fangio, Steve Spagnuolo, and others, I'll take Flores number 1. And he's back. I still have a lot of faith in Kevin O'Connell as an offensive mind, and I am willing to say that it's more on J.J. McCarthy, and I can be wrong, that's my opinion, more on McCarthy than a proven head coach and offensive coach in Kevin O'Connell. Enter Kyler Murray. I told you this before the Vikings signed him and after the deal was inked. I said, if the Vikings sign Kyler Murray, this is a playoff team this year in the NFC. They signed Kyler Murray, and I told you, this is a playoff team this year in the NFC. So week 1, Vikings-Packers in Minnesota. We can do this song and dance as to who's going to win this quarterback competition. There is no competition. Kyler Murray will be the starter if he's healthy. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll take the Vikings and Kyler Murray to beat the Packers in Minnesota in week numero uno. Take a break. On the other side, joining me to talk all things NBA playoffs, the great Brian Geltzeiler from SiriusXM NBA Radio here on a Monday on Westwood One Sports.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew. Presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
I have to just, it's one of the best rap songs of all time. One of my favorite songs of all time. Jay-Z, You Don't Know. You don't know what you do to me. When the games get bigger, the crowds get louder, and the excitement reaches a new level. Be part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Joining us right now on the show to talk NBA, good friend of ours, good friend of mine, from SiriusXM NBA Radio and NBA TV, the legendary Brian Geltzeiler on social media at BGeltzNBA. Geltz, welcome back to the show. How are you? Happy Monday.
I'm great, Nick. Thank you for the kind words. Too kind, my friend. How you been? You all right?
I'm doing awesome. Just as we were talking about off air, would very much like for my favorite team to get over the hump and get to the NBA Finals. And we could talk about the Eastern Conference Final with the Knicks and the Cavs in just a moment. But first, Geltz, your impressions and thoughts coming out of last night's Game 7 with the Cavs absolutely laying it on the Pistons in Detroit.
Well, there were two elements of that game for Cleveland that flipped it early and were unrelenting. Number one was the unselfishness of Donovan Mitchell, which we haven't seen all series. Mitchell has very much in this series been about getting his own. 6 assists in the first half and finding Mobley and Allen a lot ended up being contagious, and the ball moved a ton. Detroit inexplicably didn't keep someone home on Sam Merrill, because the only place Merrill can hurt you is from outside the three-point line. They allowed him with a bunch of threes in the first half, but a lot of that was because Donovan Mitchell was willing to move the ball out of his hands, and the ball was just popping for the Cavs. The other part of it, and I bring this back to Mitchell's unselfishness as well, Evan Mobley, who has these bouts of a lack of aggression. There are moments where he can be incredibly aggressive around the rim and in the paint, and other times where he just shies away from contact. And that inconsistency really hurts the Cavs. Last night, seeing the ball a lot early allowed him to do two things that he was very comfortable doing. Number one, offensively, not only was he attacking, he was incredibly unselfish. It was the only game of the series you saw a lot of Mobley to Allen action offensively with him. And what do you have, 6 assists, 8 assists? He had a big assist number there, Evan Mobley, last night, in finding Jared Allen a lot. The second part was that Detroit's physicality, which really was what kept them in the series all this time, was completely nullified by the fact that Mobley set a tone and Allen followed. They were as physically tough as they were in any game throughout this entire playoffs last night. And that's the one spot where the Knicks can exploit them big time in this next series. If they bring that physicality in the way they did last night, possession after possession with intensity, if they're able to do that against the Knicks, they'll make this a tougher series than I thought it was going to be coming in. But again, the Cavs did it one game out of 14 so far in the playoffs, and we got to see if that's something they can make consistent, certainly to start the series on the road at Madison Square Garden.
Where do the Pistons go from here?
It's a great question. First of all, I do think that a little too much was made over some of Jalen Duren's struggles. I think you have to bring him back. You have to work with him. I absolutely suspect that he was injured. And I think even a night like last night, I thought that JB Bickerstaff went away from him too early. He actually looked good in the first quarter and was pretty physical. I think that they made a lot out of that. I thought he was very good in Game 6 where they won. And I think, listen, he's a 22-year-old kid. He's a young player. Now, again, the money you're going to have to commit to him becomes a problem, because there's teams out there like the Lakers and like the Bulls and like the Nets who all could use a Jalen Duren and will be happy to pay him $40 million a year. So if Detroit can't get a deal done with him at a more reasonable number and they send him out into the open market as a restricted free agent, somebody's going to pay him big, and they're going to end up having a match and overpay. So that's one spot you got to watch for them in the offseason. The other thing is this: you need to go find a secondary offense creator. There was just far too much on Cade Cunningham's plate. And it was interesting because in Game 6, JB Bickerstaff made a big offensive adjustment where he didn't have Cunningham bring the ball up at all. And it really helped everybody else get going in the offense. They had 6 guys in double figures. And Cunningham's off-ball gravity created space for others. Last night, they adjusted big time. They denied Cunningham the ball in the half court even after the ball came up the floor. They stayed at home on every other guy really well and really nicely, and they made it very hard for Detroit to get anything easy. And in them doing that for Detroit, it exposed the fact they don't have somebody else that they can go to get a bucket. And listen, they got a lot of assets, they got a lot of picks, and if you really think this team can be a title contender right now, you got to go find somebody. I know there's a lot of stories about Larry Markkinen. Listen, the Jazz didn't go trade for Jaren Jackson because they're going to trade Larry Markkinen now. I don't think that's going to happen. But you keep an eye on a guy like Michael Porter Jr., who could come there and certainly had a good year for the Nets and can help them. They have to find a secondary creator, and it doesn't matter what position the guy plays. They have to have somebody they can give the ball to. They can go get a bucket on their own. Right now, they have one guy in Cade Cunningham, and you see what happens. Max Strus, over the course of this series, defended him as well as you'll see anyone defend Cunningham. Did a super job on him. But if they don't get somebody else that can get their own shot, Detroit, this may be their ceiling right where we see it right now.
You bet on this Monday. Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos joined by Brian Geltzeiler, Sirius XM NBA Radio and NBA TV, on social media at BGeltzNBA. All right, let's look ahead to Knicks Cavs in the Eastern Conference Final, where the Knicks favorites in Game 1, the Knicks favorites to win the series. We are expecting OG Anunoby back for Game 1, and presumably will be healthy for the series. We'll see how it goes. How do you handicap, Geltz, the Eastern Conference Final? Who wins, how many games, etc.? Knicks and Cavs.
I'm going to take the Knicks in 6. I think that the Cavs will hang early in the series. I think the Knicks' physicality is going to end up wearing them down. I think the Knicks will struggle a little bit early in the series. This kind of layoff isn't positive. It's not a good thing. The one good thing for the Knicks is it allowed OG Anunoby to be able to get healthy, get some practice in. He'll be ready to go Game 1. He's an important player. He's the most important player in the Knicks, quite frankly. He's the most irreplaceable guy that they have. As great as Towns has been and as great as Brunson is, if you don't have another muscle wing outside of OG Anunoby. So I think that helps the Knicks, but I also think the layoff's not wonderful for them because killing time in the middle of the playoffs is hard. Jalen Brunson's out there doing podcasts. Karl Towns was playing a really good golf course in West Orange, New Jersey sometime last week. And I don't blame these guys, but when you're in New York, you do what they've done and you're the toast of the town. It's hard to not believe your own BS, for lack of a better term, Nick. And this is a really, really good Cavs team you got to roll up your sleeves against. So I think you'll see the Knicks be a tad stale, and the timing won't be great early in this series. But as time goes on, I think it will be really good. The other thing is this, that I think, the Knicks' new style of play, which is running everything on the half court through Towns at the elbow, which is what they should have been doing for the last 2 years. And it's working out great. Brunson, you got to remember, made his bones as in the NBA as an off-ball player with Luka Doncic. He's very good off the ball. The one thing that I'll tell you, Mobley will defend Towns well at the elbow. He's big enough to block Towns' field of vision on some cuts. When Towns puts it on the floor a little bit, he's got some length, he's got some quickness. So what they do with Towns there is going to be very, very interesting. Because here's the other thing. When Towns goes out of the game, they've been doing the same thing at the elbow with Mitchell Robinson. However, just running some different variables, whether it's dribble handoffs, whether it's some pick and roll. The Robinson lob threat has created space for three-point shooters. Mobley can switch off of that to a perimeter guy quite effectively as well. So there's a lot of different things at play here for what the Cavs decide to do defensively. But I will also say this, the Cavs do not have a wing that can take OG Anunoby in any way, shape, or form. And I would expect if you do see the Knicks struggle a little bit with running things through Towns at the elbow, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see OG be an initiator of a lot of pick and rolls with the ball in his hands, even some inverted pick and rolls with Brunson, just to kind of take advantage of the fact that that's a matchup I think the Cavs will struggle a lot with.
All right, so that's the Eastern Conference Final with the Knicks and Cavs. Game 1 tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden. Before I get your thoughts on who's going to win Game 1 tonight with the Thunder and the Spurs and who's going to go to the NBA Finals out of the West, if you had to pick a team, Geltz, in the Western Conference that can, at some point in the next, I'll even give you 5 years. I'll give you a runway of 5 years. Upend the apple cart and be the team that can beat with some level of consistency either Oklahoma City or San Antonio. Who is it and why? Because I don't look at this just as Game 1 tonight with OKC and San Antonio. This, to me, is Series 1 between these two teams. How are they not meeting in the Western Conference Final for the next 5 years? Who is it and why if there's going to be a team that stops that?
So it's interesting. The one team that I will tell you, because I had going into this playoff a tremendous amount of confidence in the Denver Nuggets. They have now played most of their last cards. They got a big situation here they got to deal with Peyton Watson. They overpaid Christian Brown in the worst way, and they really don't have a mechanism to improve this roster that we just saw wasn't good enough. The team I would tell you, and it's not going to be the way the team exists now. It's going to be based upon one move, maybe two, and meaningful, important, significant moves. It's going to be the Houston Rockets. And I say that for this reason. They did not have a good year this year. They go out in the first round to the Lakers. Durant is hurt. But
you're going to have to sell this one a little bit with how the season ended for Houston. So I'm going to hear you out here, but you're going to have to sell me a little bit on this one.
Hear me out here. First of all, here's where I'm going to start. If Houston wants Giannis, they can have him. And I want you to think about that for a minute, because take a look.
Does Giannis want Houston? And does it matter?
Listen, at this point in time with Giannis, beggars can't be choosers. He's not going to find his way to Minnesota. He's not going to find his way to New York. Neither of those things are going to happen. For Giannis, if you want out of Milwaukee, you're going to have to expand your horizons a little bit. And I think if I'm Giannis and I can go to Houston and I can play with Kevin Durant and Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith and Fred VanVleet, I want to go do that and try to win next year. And to me, I think Houston, if they're able to go bring in Giannis and get that kind of player. The other guy that I find interesting that I think could go to Houston and swing their fortunes a little bit, and he's definitely going to be available this offseason, is Kyrie Irving. I think they need a point guard in the worst way. And that lack of organization at point guard, the faith in Reed Shepherd, was interesting. I heard their GM, Raphael Stone, last week on a podcast with Ryan Russillo. And if you kind of read between the lines, he wasn't thrilled with how Ime Udoka ran that offense in the fourth quarter of games, and he was not thrilled with Reed Shepherd, because he said we didn't really turn it all over to Reed, and this year was less than what we had expected from Reed and what Reed expected from himself. It tells you they have to do something at the position. So to me, VanVleet is not as good as Kyrie Irving, and VanVleet was a guy that helped them a ton. I think Houston, with one move, has enough good athletes there and enough size that they can be really, really competitive with both of those two top teams that we're looking at to dominate the conference for the next 5 to 7 years.
We have some breaking news here. Want to get your reaction to it. This was tweeted less than a minute ago by Shams Charania of ESPN. Want to get your reaction? Give it to me in like 30 seconds, and then we'll get a prediction on Thunder Spurs. The New Orleans Pelicans are hiring recently fired Orlando Magic coach Jamal Mosley as the franchise's next head coach. So again, the Pelicans hiring Jamal Mosley. Your thoughts on this in the moment right now?
I'm not surprised. They waited to make any kind of hire when the season ended to wait and see what Orlando was going to do with Mosley. They went through an interview process. I know Joe Dumars was very, very high on Mosley from the beginning, kind of had to be sold to other people in the organization. Here's the thing about a hire for Mosley, and this is what I'll say. For the Pelicans, it's not a bad hire. Would I have stayed with Jim Borrego? I would have. I thought he did a decent job when he took over last year. With all that said, Jamal Mosley is a floor raiser. He is not a ceiling raiser. When you look at what the Pelicans need right now, they need that floor raised. They need to be a team. Listen, they had a lottery year, and they're not going to have a lottery pick. And that was a terrible mistake that was made by Joe Dumars last year in trading up for Derek Queen. Not that Queen isn't a good player, but you gave up what essentially is going to amount to the number 8 pick in this draft. And that's not a pick you wanted to give up. So where do they go from here? Well, you bring in a guy like Mosley, whose teams defend really well. He's going to make them guard in the biggest way that they can. And you'll see where he can bring them. Again, they're not ready to contend for a title. It makes, to me, Mosley a good choice. The one thing I just scratch my head about is, what did Borrego do wrong that you would decide you didn't want to keep him after he kind of put a silk head on a pig after they fired Willie Green and took this over? One other thing that I think you have to understand is important about the New Orleans Pelicans, Nick. They're not looking to pay a lot of money for a coach. I don't know what Jamal Mosley's contract is with this news just breaking. It's not going to be in the top half of what coaches are paid. And that certainly could have been a rub with getting somebody else. For Mosley, smart move, steps right back in after being fired by Orlando and has another opportunity here with some talent on this roster to be able to move this thing up.
We're running out of time, like 30 seconds here. Who do you like to win the Western Conference, OKC or San Antonio?
San Antonio. As long as Wembanyama's on the court, I think they're going to be able to hurt OKC in the mid-range in a big way. San Antonio has the unique ability to turn Oklahoma City into jump shooters, and that's your best chance against them. Jalen Williams being back will make San Antonio's life a lot harder offensively, but I actually think San Antonio wins the series in 6.
So Gelt's going with San Antonio. I like the Thunder. We will see how it shakes out. Game 1 tonight in OKC. Geltz, appreciate the time. NBA TV, NBA radio at B Geltz NBA. We'll catch up with you down the road.
Always my pleasure, Nick. Talk to you soon, pal. Take care.
Our friend Brian. I'll tell you what about Geltz. Geltz will give you some takes that I hear, and I'm like, I don't know about that. And then he explains himself really well. Like the Houston Rockets thing I thought was fascinating there. And it does go noted when he's talking about a potential Giannis trade. Şengün's name did not get mentioned. Obviously, he would go to Milwaukee in any potential deal for. I don't think that's going to happen, but we shall see. Final hour, power hour coming up on the other side. I still have thoughts on the NFL schedule to get to. We need to talk about Aaron Rye winning the PGA Championship, thoughts on Sabres-Canadiens Game 7, thoughts on the Western Conference Final of the National Hockey League, and the weekend that was in Major League Baseball. Plus, Dave Dameshek joins the show from Football America right after this.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Bring it up, Grant. Final hour. Power hour. You better you bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew, Dave Dameshek, and you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. We still have to get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Game 7 tonight in Western New York with the Sabres and the Canadiens. I can't wait for it. Why I think the winner of that game will beat the Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final. And why, if we're being honest, Vegas and Colorado, Game 1 later this week in Mile High, is actually the Stanley Cup Final. So we'll get to the NHL a little later in the show, a little later this hour, plus Major League Baseball from the weekend that was, including the disaster known as my New York Yankees. And why I enjoyed Aaron Rye winning the PGA Championship yesterday. I did not think I would, and I did. I'll explain why coming up in a little bit. All our bets will close the show, as per usual. But joining us right now to kick off the final hour, kick off the power hour, because, you know, the news gets announced. Aaron Rodgers back in Pittsburgh. And I'm thinking to myself, man, who can we have on to talk about this? There's only one man. There's only one name. Celebrity Pittsburgh Steelers fan. One of the most respected Yinzers out there. Football America is the show that you can find on YouTube. It is spectacular as part of our friends at Meadowlark Media. He hosts the Dan Le Batard Show every Friday. The best. Our friend Dave Dameshek joins us here on You Better You Bet on Twitter at Dameshek. My friend, welcome back to the show. You're looking better than usual. You look well rested. How's it going? How you doing?
I'm doing well. So many different directions to go in. First of all, really been enjoying your new turn on the digital media, issuing the so-called vertical videos that are very popular with the kids these days, always weighing in on this, that, and the other in the world of sports and beyond. Gun show, I noticed on Sunday night, you had the tats out for all the Pistons fans as you sort of, kind of tried to pretend like you were making nice with them, but really you were taking a shot at them for not getting to play your both. Knickerbockers.
Well, listen, to be fair, right?
We could talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs. I disagree with your assessment of where it's going to go, but I also disagree with the NHL's choice to continue on with the playoffs after the Penguins went out in round one. They should have just called it a day and come back fresh in October. And lastly, PGA Championship, I only indulged a little bit of watching myself. I really think that of the majors that exist in tennis and in golf, the PGA Championship is the lamest. It has no vibe to it, and they really should effort for their own sake to do something distinguishing. Do you know it used to be match play decades and decades ago? That would be a distinguishing feature, as would making all the players play every round with just a 6-iron and no other club. That would be cool. Okay. You would definitely watch. You would definitely pay attention.
What is this, Calvin ball? Like you're Bill Watterson now, just like making up a game here? I would actually argue.
That's right.
I think it's the Australian Open, only because the matches are in the middle of the night. I think that's the most nondescript of the majors in those sports.
But the fact that it is in the middle of the night is a distinguishing feature, as is the fact that it's 298 degrees.
All
apparently.
right. You know, now we're in a totally different direction here. So as a sports fan and bon vivant, I ask you this question because I was thinking this, as we're coming down this, and Aaron Rye was 300-1 to win this tournament, and the juxtaposition, and I was actually planning on doing this like next segment. I'll do a little bit of it now. Okay. The juxtaposition between golf and tennis is fascinating, right? And I think you can make a case for either thing that I'm going to say now. Where in tennis, let's just use the men's side, right? It has been a foregone conclusion for 20 plus years. There's like 4 players that can win every major, right? When it was the big 3 era with Federer and Djokovic and Nadal, and now like Alcaraz isn't playing at the French Open, it feels like Sinner's just going to win, right? Where in golf, like, yes, you can have Rory McIlroy win a major, and you can have Scotty win a major, and you can have Tiger Woods win a million majors. But you will never have in tennis, and I don't even mean this as a criticism, just a statement of fact, you will never have in tennis J.J. Spawn win the U.S. Open. Aaron Rai win the PGA Championship. And I found myself, and I don't mean that as a criticism of tennis, I mean it as I found it to be fun yesterday watching the PGA Championship. What does Dave Dameshek prefer as a man and as a sports fan? The certainty of tennis or the uncertainty of golf?
I love it, except for the fact that you have me on your show, and then you go into a 5-minute monologue about tennis v golf.
Well, I mean,
what the hell
I
are we
got
doing?
on the show to talk about the Steelers, and you're giving me they should play with 6 irons at the PGA Championship. What do you want me to do?
I enjoy talking about the game of life as much as you do. I'm sorry, I go in various different directions here. I like dynasties, and whether or not fans understand that they deep down like dynasties, agree with me. They are good for sports. In fact, the most communist of all of our major leagues out there is the NFL. The only reason you don't really feel the fact that it's just sort of like every team's number is going to come up eventually is thanks to the incompetence, the enduring incompetence of Woody Johnson and Jimmy Haslam and a few other people. Otherwise, it would just be a matter of just wait your turn. Eventually, your number's got to come up based on the shared revenue and the capped league and all the rest of it. It's just a matter of time. So I think tennis is better to have that because the scarcity of true underdogs is what's great. It's a little weird now. College basketball has entered a weird space now where the difference between the best teams and the mediocre ones is negligible, and that proves out week after week, game after game. It's unsatisfying ultimately.
Why do you disagree with my assertion? And I don't know what you disagreed with, that either Buffalo or Montreal would beat Carolina, that Vegas and Colorado is actually the Stanley Cup final. What did you disagree with what I was saying about the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Well, listen, I think just as college football is better when Notre Dame is good and NFL's better with the Cowboys being relevant and all of that, I think that the Bleu Blanc et Rouge being a factor in the playoffs makes the NHL a little more appealing, especially given that no team in Canada has done much of anything in the playoffs in many moons. That just is just weird on face and spiritually. Now, I think that's trumped by any American hockey fan, any sports fan has to be rooting for the Buffalo Sabres. It's just real sad stuff for those poor people up there in Western New York.
I'm rooting for Montreal. I bet on them, but I'm also rooting for Montreal. I like the Canadian teams.
Why
in
so?
Hockey.
Why? Oh, I mean, yeah, so they're they're a fun watch. There's no doubt that the energy. I always, Nick, I mean, what I want is if I am completely objective on something, as I more or less am on this one, whichever fan base is gonna love it more. I think it's a wash between these two, right? I mean,
Agreed.
Sabres fans and Habs fans. I don't know, like who I side with. As far as that thing goes, what I disagree with is I think either one, especially given the extra games being played, we haven't seen the Canes, and it is a legit thing that impacts some teams. The resting up too long thing that the Canes are going to have to try to shake off a little bit of rust. I still like the way the Canes are playing. They seem to have shaken off the demons that have plagued them a little bit. Their brand is going to really wear out. Well, I mean, I guess we will see, but that style that they play, especially whoever survives a 7-game series, is really going to wear out that survivor. That's my expectation. So yeah, I think the Canes are going to go to the final.
All right, so I will bet at least in game 1, perhaps for the series, whoever wins tonight, game 7. I got Montreal to win. They won on the road in Tampa. I certainly think they can win on the road in Buffalo in a game 7. We'll finalize the bets at the end of the show.
Paradoxically, I know that's weird, but I think that's right. Somehow
Montreal.
The math is right. I mean, I think the pressure, the curse of Sposta. This isn't the curse of Sposta on the Sabres, except that this season indicates that they should beat the Habs, but I mean the amount of pressure and the extra baggage that those Sabres are carrying on their shoulders. If they get down a goal, the energy in the stands will.
Would you rather be the road team tonight
down onto the benches
in this game?
Yeah.
Would you almost rather be the road team?
So. For sure. I don't think there's any negative that comes from the crowd cheering. I think when you feel the nervousness, I've talked to many players in different sports about this, primarily football, but it still is true in the NHL. There is a home field, home ice, home court disadvantage that occurs when you start to feel like, things aren't going our way. You feel it in the stands.
Yeah.
It makes it down onto both benches.
Oh, man, as a Yankee fan, I can't wait for this October to experience that. We'll see how many times we get to experience it this October, but it's coming. Dave Dameshek with us on the show, Football America. You can find it on YouTube. Also hosting the Dan Le Batard Show every Friday for our friends at Meadowlark Media, on Twitter at Dameshek. Your Pittsburgh Steelers, Dave, have made it official. Aaron Rodgers will be your quarterback this year. Mike McCarthy will be your head coach, partying like it's 2018 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Dave Dameshek's thoughts, now that it's official, are what and why Aaron Rodgers back for another year?
I mean, as quickly as I can, as succinctly, even though it doesn't isn't something that either you or I likes to indulge, as being brief. It's a waste of time. That's how I'll put it. It's a waste of time unless you think that these Steelers have a Super Bowl run in them this year. Then what's the point of doing it? It has zero value, in my opinion. You're just delaying things. Actually, nay, you're wasting a year, a precious year for Cam Hayward. But for what it's worth, Cam Hayward seems to like the idea of this and has campaigned for Aaron Rodgers to come back this year after he campaigned for Aaron Rodgers last year and campaigned for Russell Wilson the year before that. So I don't know whether he should really be trusted with quarterback personnel decisions.
What is the ceiling? Because this is the case I made in the first hour of the show. It's like I don't think check the Steelers are going to make the playoffs, but I'm wrong all the time. Let's say I'm wrong, and let's play out the absolute upside ceiling case for the 2026 Pittsburgh Steelers. What is it?
I think they, given the evidence of a year ago, so they win 10 games. This roster has been upgraded. I think we can agree on that. I think that it's funny to me that Mike Tomlin, one thing that kind of slipped through the cracks with his sit down in promoting his Sunday Night Football gig, is that he said, I felt like it was a good time for me to step away. We just haven't done anything in the playoffs in a long time. Like, boy, cute little afterthought on your way out the door there. Yeah, I think that, like I've talked about, you talk about ceiling, like you and I have gone back and forth on for many years now. Tomlin is the 21st century's greatest floor raiser. The problem was that there was a ceiling on how far they could ever go based on his approach philosophically, which had become outmoded. So I think that it is ultimately a win. They have not just upgraded the roster, but improved the chances of success based on the coaching staff. The issue is that Aaron Rodgers remains their quarterback. And I think that's a shame when you consider, or if you agree with me, I think that roster is, at least you can make a real strong case, is the best in the AFC North. Maybe the Ravens, if you remove the quarterback, are right there with them.
Can I ask a crazy question? Can I ask a crazy question? Which side of the ball do you think is more talented for the and I know this is a weird thing to say. Take the quarterback out of the equation. Which side, the offense is more talented, right, than the defense?
They brought back their assistant GM, I think that's his title. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what his title is. Andy Weidel, the prodigal son from Pittsburgh, left to Philadelphia and tuned up that line of scrimmage for the Eagles, and the results of which they continue to benefit from, even though Andy Weidel moved back to Pittsburgh a few years ago to do the same in Pittsburgh. That's what his specialization was, handed down from on high. Focus on rebuilding the offensive line and the defensive front here in Pittsburgh, Andy. And so he has. He has not missed on a single pick. So the offensive line should finally be ripening and be ready to borderline dominate. It had some stretches last year. So I think that's the key detail, especially with Aaron Rodgers. And you say take him out of the equation. I guess I'm vamping around here. The defense is ultimately more talented, I think. I mean, I think the defense is real loaded up. I don't see necessarily any flaws, but for that matter, the offense is loaded up. Like I say, they just have a 43-year-old man back there who clearly prioritizes not taking smacks, which I absolutely understand. At age 43, I was more nervous about my mortality than I was when I was 23. That's how it goes. The problem is that he's your starting quarterback, and that is not great. And people say, but wait, isn't the offensive line now going to dominate? Yeah, guess what? Will Anderson and Myles Garrett are still good at football. They are going to reach the quarterback, and that is going to derail the Steelers in January when they play playoff-level teams, playoff-level defenses. Those guys are going to get through, not Myles Garrett, because he's not going to be in the playoffs, but you take my larger point here. And so the ceiling in my book is maybe they could get it to 11 wins thereabouts. I do think they got a little bit of a break from the football gods with a down Ravens team, relatively speaking, and a derailed Bengals team once again. I think you do see the Bengals come back a little bit. That matters, and so does the Ravens probably being a tick better than they were a year ago. I think that catches up with the Steelers as well.
Fair or unfair to say that the Pittsburgh Steelers are about to enter into the new 1980s with their organizational approach?
Aren't they already there? What do you mean? Enter the 80s? Well, they've adopted in the last handful of years. They've basically employed the Chris Ballard already silly, or in fact, I guess Chris Ballard kind of did make something work there with Danny Dimes a year ago, a fluke. And that's basically what the Steelers have been swinging for basically since Ben Roethlisberger hurt his elbow in 2019. I mean, it's been a long time since that happened, and they still have not really solved it because they continue to treat it as though they can find their quarterback. I mean, Chris Ballard just did it, and so it's bad because it validates that approach, which is, who knows?
The Seahawks just did it too, to be fair. The Seahawks did it, to be fair, also.
No, they spent to get Sam Darnold. That's different.
But not like the most extreme amount of money, though.
The Steelers could have taken a better run at Sam Darnold. They could have taken a run at Malik Willis for basically the same amount of bank they just handed 43-year-old Aaron Rodgers. They could have drafted Jackson Dart like I advocated that they do a year ago. I mean, listen, they could have chased Geno Smith a year ago or for this season. Any of those options. And I know it's hard to fathom because Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to the Hall of Fame for the things he did 8 or 10 years ago. There is no sign that this Aaron Rodgers is a reflection. It's a meager reflection. It's sort of Michael J. Fox and his siblings as they fade away in Back to the Future. This is not the same Aaron Rodgers. He is the name brand guy. The Steelers found him on the sales rack at TJ Maxx. He's a brand name, but he's a steal. And somehow this is supposed to make us all swoon. The fact that the other 31 teams saw that this is not the Aaron Rodgers of old should be more disconcerting to Steelers fans, or at least to Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy. But apparently they see things differently.
As a noted football historian, although I would say second place in football historian as far as the two people that are talking right now, but as a noted football historian,
I don't know why you like to do that. That's okay. I'm not silly to say, okay,
because it's fun. Because it was fun.
Make one of your vertical videos. Wear a tank top. All historians wear tank tops.
Let me tell you something, man. I don't know what the weather was like. Well, you're in LA, right? You're in Southern California. It was like 90 degrees. It was hot, man, yesterday. Had to wear the tank top. What do I wear? Long sleeves? It was hot as hell yesterday. The end of the Rodgers.
I don't think a grown man. What I don't want to see, what offends me is the pit hair. I don't need to see it.
But you didn't see it because I am very well manicured.
Well, that's too much. Now, wait, you go clean?
I don't shave my armpits, but no, but I am well manicured though. I don't have hair sticking out of the sides. I'm very vain.
That much I know. That much we can agree on.
And listen, you don't like a man to wear a tank top because you're fat.
No, that's not really what it's about. And that's a weird thing to say. I also don't like seeing other men's feet. And then people say, oh, well, you must have ugly feet. No, I just think men's feet are disgusting. I
agree with you.
In a related matter, that's why I can't watch MMA. I mean, it's too much.
Oh.
Like no, thank you. What would you think of that big Nagano fight? I couldn't see it. He had his bare feet out and was putting them on another man. Makes me want to throw up.
Should the Steelers hire Rex Ryan as their next coach? Okay, so no, in all seriousness, last question here. So noted NFL historian Dave Dameshek. I think the term that the kids use is retcon. It's going to be like, hey, like when Disney eventually says, hey, remember those 3 movies we just made that were terrible? They actually never happened, and now we're going to make new ones. Do you think I have retconned the end of our... Because what I seem to remember, Dave, is in 2018 when the Packers dismissed Mike McCarthy with a month to go in the season and they went 6-9-1 and Rodgers played every game, was everybody saying this has run its course and McCarthy is a great Packer. They named a street after him. He won a Super Bowl, not questioning otherwise, and they had a great run, but it had grown stale and it's time for it to end. And now 8 years later, we're just doing the same thing at a different place and everyone's like, no big deal. Am I being too dramatic when I say, like, I can't believe this is happening? Am I being too dramatic here with this? Am I retconning what actually happened at the end of this?
Well, first of all, I do not think you are being histrionic or melodramatic or anything else, any other synonyms or tangential words that would apply here. I think that, first of all, you need to keep in mind that the mirage of Aaron Rodgers can get it done 8 years after the last signs of real enduring success with Mike McCarthy. I think that, you have to consider the Frank Gore paradox, which is, why was Frank Gore good
Frank Gore
so
paradox.
deep into his career? Well, listen, because Frank Gore, how's he doing this so deep into his career? Chris Johnson is an ancient memory at this point. Well, it's because Chris Johnson depended upon high-end speed to go in pro football. Frank Gore never had that extra gear to lose, and so that is why Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, well, not Peyton Manning, but Tom Brady at least could succeed well into his 40s. Aaron Rodgers is about quick twitch, getting on the edge and putting pressure on the defense. He's not capable of doing that anymore, so he's not Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady succeeding in his 40s. By the way, Tom Brady is the only 40-plus-year-old guy to ever even reach a Super Bowl. You think the 43-year-old man doing ayahuasca promo videos is gonna change that history? Please, no. And then the big rationalization for the people who are supportive of McCarthy and Rodgers reuniting here is, well, he already knows the offense. Rodgers skipped the little 3-day mini camp that they had back in April on that premise. Like, what's the big deal? Who cares? He already knows the offense. So what you're telling us is no upgrades, no alterations to what you were doing 8 years ago? That's pretty troubling. By the way, let's say you have tuned it up and you made some differences and Aaron now does things this way versus how he did them 8 or 10 years ago. No need to get on the same page with all those new teammates. Boy, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson must have really been wasting their time last month when they attended their team's mini camps. Aaron doesn't need it, though, because he's going to the Hall of Fame for stuff that happened a decade ago. But still.
Well said. I hate that I love Rodgers. I hate that I agree with that with all of this. I don't understand.
Me
what
too.
Yeah.
People keep the Yinzers and otherwise keep coming at me with dude, you're just a Rodgers hater. I'm like, man, you think the darkness is your friend? I was born into it. In 2010, October of 2010, I sat on television and repeatedly said, this is pre-Super Bowl win against the aforementioned Pittsburgh Steelers. I said repeatedly, this guy, Aaron Rodgers, will retire as the greatest quarterback in the history of people. I was wrong about that, but the spirit was sound. He is still, after everything we've seen, with the possible exception of Josh Allen, the most gifted quarterback of all time. It has yielded one Super Bowl. The solution for the Steelers is to get back to the Super Bowl that they've been away from 16 years is to go get the guy who hasn't won a Super Bowl in 16 years. A great plan. Let's get excited, Yins.
And the coach that beat them in that game as well. Shaq, you're the best. Football America, the Dan Le Batard Show on Twitter at Dameshek. Stay well. We'll talk to you soon. Sorry about your Penguins.
I'm going to go cut the sleeves off my T-shirt.
You don't You don't look as good as I do, buddy. It's not going to be great for you. All right, we'll take a break. Love Dave Dameshek. On the other side, Stanley Cup playoffs, Major League Baseball, and why I enjoyed the Aaron Rye experience yesterday in Philadelphia here on a Monday.
back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. CBS courtesy on the call. If you missed it, and maybe you did, maybe you tuned out because the leaderboard featured a bunch of unfamiliar names, and it did look like through two holes yesterday at the PGA Championship that Jon Rahm might run away with the event. Spoiler alert, he didn't. In case you turned it off, Aaron Rye, who was 298 to 1, a huge long shot at BetMGM, drained a 68-foot birdie putt on 17 to all but clinch the Wanamaker Trophy. And obviously, radio is an audio medium, so if you haven't seen it, I urge you to check the video out. You can't tell from the audio. You know, there are a lot of famous shots in golf history. Tiger Woods has authored a number of them, right? Where the shot is made and there is a huge celebration with histrionics and high fives and hugs with the caddy, etc., and playing to the crowd. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating like that. I did think Aaron Rye's reaction to that shot, and if you missed it, I would really encourage you to watch it because I felt like it was this, candidly, this sounds a little dramatic. It probably is, honestly, but it's how I felt. This profoundly human moment where the ball goes in the hole and on his face is not like a huge smile. He's not fist pumping. It's simultaneously disbelief that he made it, combined with jubilation that he's probably going to win the PGA Championship. And you put these two ingredients together and it creates this unbelievable facial expression that has to be seen to be believed. And in the moment, like, I got chills watching it, not just because of the shot, but because of that moment for this young man and what it represented. And it made me a little bit think about a couple questions that I had asked last week to our great golf guest that joined us to preview the PGA. Gary Williams from SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio and the Golf Channel, and our pal Jason Sobel from CBS Sports, SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio, and BetMGM. And I meant it when I asked the question. Does golf need Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, both in contention on Sunday, to really make this a great tournament? And both guys, to their credit, said no. Would it help? Yes. Does golf need it? No. I felt like going in order for me, and I'm always honest with you, right? I'm not the biggest golf fan. Like, I know what happens in the events because I bet and because I work in sports, but I'm the type of golf fan who parachutes in for the final round of a major. And I'm always really honest about that. And I felt like last week heading into this tournament that in order for me, casual golf fan, to be truly invested in this tournament on Sunday, I wanted Rory and Scottie. I wanted the two best players in the world going mano-a-mano. And instead, here's Aaron Rye and Matty Schmid and Alex Smalley. And Rahm's up there as well, but I mean, it really felt like with a couple holes to play, like this was done. And Rye was going to win, to the point that CBS kept showing the engraver of the trophy and her like hideously colored purple nails. So like that was the close-up shot, was her purple nails engraving the trophy like with like an hour left to go in the tournament. And as it became kind of a foregone conclusion that Rye was going to win, it becomes at this point, and this is one of the things about golf that I think is special. And candidly, it's the kind of thing that I feel like I probably miss by not being a bigger golf fan. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to sit down and watch every tournament, but I'm just being honest with you, right? You get these wonderful, almost like human interest stories, right? Where The final 30 to 60 minutes of this major coverage on television, it's less about the drama of who's going to win and more about, hey, here's this guy that you would have probably bet a lot of money against ever winning a major. He's going to win. Who is he? What's special about him and his story? And you find out over the course of the day, and I knew none of these things. I'm not a huge golf fan. That his family didn't grow up with a lot of money, and he uses iron covers on his clubs, which is thought to be like a faux pas, but he does it to kind of honor where he came from. And every golfer, including Rory McIlroy, who, when Rory had a bad shot yesterday, gets a fan thrown out because he's petulant. Even Rory is saying there's not one person on this tour that dislikes Aaron Rai and is not happy for Aaron Rai. And he wins, and he has the embrace with his wife, who's also a pro golfer. And he talks about her at the press conference afterwards. He wouldn't have won without her. And, yes, it didn't have the star power. It didn't have Scotty. It didn't have Rory. It didn't have Bryson. It didn't have Brooks. It didn't have the biggest names in golf at the top of the leaderboard. I still thought it was pretty awesome. Like a great human interest thing. And that's kind of the cool thing about golf in a way. And it's sort of this epiphany that I had as I was watching the end of the tournament yesterday. And we talked about this a little bit with Dave Dameshek earlier in the show. In tennis, and I love tennis also, this is not to be like one's better than the other, they're just different. It's a foregone conclusion, right? And I guess he could not win, but Jannik Sinner is probably going to win the French Open. And it was either going to be Djokovic, it was going to be Federer, or it was going to be Nadal for a really long time. In tennis, Aaron Rai never wins. Rich Beam never wins. Y.E. Yang never wins. J.J. Spawn never wins. Danny Willett never wins. And I think it's kind of cool. So I kind of need to now, I'm walking back a little bit some of the stuff that I was talking about with Jason and with Gary last week on the show. I loved the ending of the PGA Championship yesterday. Congratulations to Aaron Rai on winning the major. You bet on this Monday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports. A couple other notes to get into the show. I hope that a lot of you have been watching the Sabres Canadiens second round series in the NHL because it has been magnificent. So the Canadiens wreck the Sabres in Game 5. They go back to Montreal up 3-2. And I'm thinking the Canadiens have got this in the bag. I bet the Canadiens to win the series. I've been betting on them throughout this postseason. Of course, I bet them in Game 6. They are up 3-1 early, so the Sabres score to go up 1-0. The Canadiens rattle off 3 straight goals. The crowd's going nuts. The Sabres pull the goalie. Lyon out. Pekka Luukkonen in. I'm thinking the Canadiens are on to the Eastern Conference Final. Until the Buffalo Sabres dropped the touchdown on them. 7 straight goals. 7. And the Sabres won Game 6, 8-3. Setting up a do-or-die Game 7 tonight in Western New York with the Sabres and Montreal. And you know where I'm going with this. I like the Canadiens tonight in Game 7. I don't feel super confident in it, and my guess is that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen will be in net, not Lyon, for the Buffalo Sabres. Montreal went on the road and beat Tampa in the first round in Game 7. And Jakob Dobeš, their goalie, was magnificent in that game. My guess is, and my bet will be, that he does it again tonight. Give me Les Habs, to win tonight in Buffalo, advance to the Eastern Conference Final, where I will bet them to win the series against Carolina and Game 1 against the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final. As far as the other side of the bracket in the National Hockey League in the Western Conference, we're not going to see Game 1 of the Knights and Avalanche in Colorado until Wednesday night. So Wednesday night's Game 1, Colorado was obviously a minus 190 favorite and a big favorite in the series. I like Colorado in the series. You know that. I've been saying all postseason long, Carolina was my bet to win the Cup. I'm not getting shaken off of that. I like Colorado. But I do acknowledge, if Vegas wins this series, Vegas will beat whoever comes out of the East and wins the championship. So I think the winner of this series will win their second Stanley Cup of this decade. The Avs won in 2021, and then the Knights came back and won in 2022. So whoever wins that series, I think wins its second Stanley Cup of this decade. I'll take the Avs, but if it's Vegas, and Vegas beats Colorado, Vegas beats either Carolina, Montreal, or Buffalo in the Stanley Cup final. And some Major League Baseball now to close this segment. I have had, as a New York Yankee fan, better weekends than losing 2 out of 3 to the New York Mets in the manner that the Yankees lost these games. And look, it starts great on Friday night. I don't want Clay Holmes to get hurt, obviously. Spencer Jones hits a line drive off of Holmes' leg. He literally breaks his leg, maybe out for the season. He'd been really good for the Mets. And at that moment, it felt like I had empathy for the Mets and for Mets fans, but also like my favorite team won. I was happy. Not happy that Holmes got hurt, but you understand what I'm saying. The Mets then look like a little league team with the way they were fielding the ball on Saturday and still won. And then Tyrone Taylor hits a 3-run game-tying homer off David Bednar as the Yankees are trying to close it out yesterday, and then the Yankees end up losing in extra innings. Now, I'm not going to panic on the Yankees overall. They're still going to go to the playoffs. Like, the pitching's going to get healthier as the season goes on. Cole will be there. Hopefully Rodon gives you a little more. The Yankees are a playoff team, and I'm not insinuating otherwise. I just don't know how you really believe that the season's going to end any other way than it always does. Because this regular season's going the way every Yankee regular season goes. It's just, we've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. And that fact, and I do think I don't think the Mets will make the playoffs, but I've been telling you for a while that they're going to start playing way better baseball. Now, just 6 games under 500. They're still bad, but playing way better. And what I said about the Yankees, and, the movie's going to end the same way, is why I think the Phillies deserve so much credit. Because the Phillies did something different. They're skidding to start the year. They fire Rob Thompson. Don Mattingly, a former Yankee, obviously, right, becomes the manager. The Phillies are 15-4 since Donnie Baseball took over and are over 500 for the first time this season. I don't know if I'm ready to say I think the Phillies can win the National League, but I feel way better about it with a new manager than I did with Rob Thompson. 2 other notes. We will bring on celebrity White Sox fan Bill Zimmerman to the show in just a moment to ask today's trivia question. How about the Southsiders walking it off yesterday against the Cubs, taking 2 of 3 against the previously streaking Chicago Cubs? The White Sox seem like a for-real team, at least in the balance of the American League wild card, so credit to them. And remember last week when I told you not to panic about the LA Dodgers? Yeah, they've won 5 straight games. The Padres are also red hot, and beginning tonight, a very, very interesting set early in the season with the 2 best teams in the National League West, the Dodgers and the Padres. And with that, here is the world's biggest Munetaka Murakami fan, executive producer Bill Zimmerman. Bill, how are you feeling about your Chi Sox on this Monday morning?
I'm feeling great. They are definitely ahead of schedule. They have a chance to sneak into the wild card here. I think next year is going to be a bigger year for them to really try and take a step forward and be a legitimate team. But they're looking good. It's amazing what happens when you have a good young core and you don't hire Tony La Russa.
Remember Tony La Russa. Did he win more games as White Sox manager or fall asleep drunk in his car outside spring training? A story for another time. Bill, what is the trivia question of the day today?
All right, Nick. Well, your New York Knicks, you've been talking about them plenty. They are going for an NBA title here in the NBA's Final Four. They are trying to break a 53-year title drought. But there are 4 teams with a longer title drought than the New York Knicks in the NBA. NBA title drought. Can you name them?
So the assumption they have won a championship previously.
They also could have never won a championship, but came around in the 60s or 70s, whatever it might be.
We will answer this question on the other side and give you all our bets to close the show right after this.
You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
When the games get bigger, the crowds get louder, and the excitement reaches a new level. Be part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Bill Zimmerman, what was the trivia question today? One more time for the audience.
The 4 NBA teams with a longer title drought than your New York Knicks that sit at 53 years, 1973, their last title.
So I correctly got during the break, there are 5, because, look, the Hornets have never won a title, but they haven't been around as long, right? So the 5 teams are the Jazz, the Clippers, the Kings, the Suns, and the Hawks. So Bill confirmed to me during the break that I have the 4 teams out of those 5. So now it's just which one to eliminate. I actually don't know. I'll say it's the Jazz, but I can be wrong. I actually don't know what the answer is here. I'll say Utah's out, and it's the Clippers, the Kings, the Suns, and the Hawks are the 4. Do I have it right?
You do have it right. The Jazz came into the league in 1974, 1 year after your Knicks won the championship. Clippers have been here 56 years, Suns 58 years. They've never won. Hawks won a title in 1958 in St. Louis with Bob Pettit. And the Kings won a title in 1951 as the Rochester Royals.
That's the Rochester. They should go back to Rochester. I feel like DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine would do well in Rochester. DeMontis Sabonis would do well in Rochester. Thanks to Bill Zimmerman for the trivia question. Thanks to Bill, Tyler, Grant, Mike, and Dan. Our friend Kenny is back tomorrow. Thanks to Grant for filling in for Kenny over the last week. We love having Grant Leader on the show. Thanks to our guests, Dave Dameshek and Brian Geltzeiler. All right, let's get to the bets. Grant, please drop the dope-ass beat. Does anyone want to bet the San Diego Padres today? Anybody? Dodgers have won 5 straight, and I get it. The Dodgers are always favored. Yamamoto's pitching tonight. Michael King going for the Pods in San Diego. The Dodgers are minus 155. I'm going to put a couple bucks, not a big bet, but I'll put a couple bucks on the Padres at plus 130 tonight. Give me the Padres plus 130 against the Dodgers. You know I'm betting the Montreal Canadiens. I have them for the series. I'll double dip. Canadiens even money tonight to beat the Sabres in Buffalo and advance to the Eastern Conference Final. And in Game 1 of the Western Conference Final, man, I can't wait to come on the air tomorrow and see how wrong I am. I'll lay the 6.5 with Oklahoma City against the Spurs. Oklahoma City's backcourt is going to make it very difficult, and the wing defenders will make it very difficult on Castle, on Fox, and on Harper. And I love Victor Wembanyama, but I think the Spurs are up against it here. Now against a fully formed, healthy, and operational Oklahoma City Thunder Death Star with J-Dub, Jalen Williams, expected back in the lineup. I think this is going to be a quick series, and I think the Thunder take care of business tonight in Game 1 at home. Give me the Thunder, and I will lay the 6.5 tonight with OKC against the San Antonio Spurs. And that does it for the Monday edition of You Better You Bet. I will be back with all of you tomorrow on a terrific Sports Tuesday. Until then, I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, and the absolute very best of luck. Our good friends Black and Abdallah coming up next on Westwood One Sports.